Hi, today we're going to talk about how to declutter your home in 15 minutes a day. So first I'm going to talk about some inspiration for decluttering your home in 15 minutes a day. Then I'm going to share some pro tips on how to declutter in 15 minutes a day. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about some pitfalls to avoid as you're decluttering in your 15 minutes. So one inspiration that I love is on Instagram. The woman's name is Christy Nurutsen. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'll spell it real quick. It's Christi, Christy with an I. And then her last name, I'm guessing it's New, Newrutzen. And so that's her Instagram. And she does this thing that she's pretty funny. She wears sunglasses and dances to like fun music, but she also does this series and it says, how long does it actually take? So she'll do, I just opened when I was pulling this up for, to make this video. It was like procrastination, 9 days. It was a bunch of like Amazon boxes and stuff to break down. And then she said, how much time did it actually take? 11 minutes. So I love her stuff because it just, you know, so often we're procrastinating, and if you actually time yourself, a lot of stuff is so fast if you just do it. It's like you'll spend 3 hours or 3 days or 3 years procrastinating, and then like just doing it is pretty quick. So I love that. And then just did a little bit of math also before I made this video. 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week. So I'm giving you 2 days off. It doesn't matter what days those are. 5 days a week, and then 4 weeks. So you're doing a month. 5 days a week, 15 minutes for a month. That's 300 minutes, which is 5 hours of decluttering. So that is going to make a huge difference. And of course, if you did 5 times 12, 60, you'd have done 60 hours at the end of the year. So, and that's not every day. That's 5 days a week, right? 15 minutes. So I think it's very reasonable, and you can make a lot of progress over time. I was just at a client's house the other day, and you know, we do like it's technically a 5.5 hour appointment right now. That's, you know, what's popular. You know, it's a 6 hour day with a little lunch break. And he was like, we made more progress in this 6 hours than we've made in years. Right? It's not as much about the hours or the number of hours. It's about starting and making the progress. And so I think with 15 minutes, you can totally do that. So, all right. So I think I've shared that while 15 minutes sounds small, it's actually not, and it really builds up over time. If 15 is too much, start with 5. Do a week of 5 minutes. Then next week, do 10 minutes. Then the third week, do 15. It's still going to add up over time. What you want to do is set a timer. We all have timers on our cell phone, and a visual timer is great because it shows the visually, you know, with a picture, like how fast it's going. When my kids were younger, I had the little visual timers, you know, like the little pizza pie, and it shows how much longer you have. That can be really helpful, especially if you do struggle with time blindness or timing issues. Just being able to see at a quick glance, oh, I have a lot left, I don't have a lot left. And some of them like even turn red as you get closer, you know, into the final quarter of the time and things like that. You want to be sure to target a very small area. For 15 minutes, I would target like one flat surface. Or it might even be half a flat surface or a small section of a flat surface. It might be one drawer. It might be one shelf. It might be half of a shelf. So because it's 15 minutes, I would make sure you have a clear boundary on a small area. You know, it might be like I told my son, he went off to school this morning. I was like, you need a sweatshirt. And he has 2 hooks by the door. And I'm telling you, there are 5 or more things hanging on the hooks. But he had to go all the way upstairs to get a sweatshirt. So I sent him a text message. But I said, your chore for after school is to clear up these hooks. Like, I don't know what's on these hooks, but it should be holding a sweatshirt that you can grab and walk out the door with. So that, that's something, I think it'll take him 4 minutes to do that project. This one goes in the wash. This one's actually not mine. This is a winter jacket. It can go upstairs in my closet until next winter. It's probably not even going to take you 15 minutes. So really commit to working until the timer goes off. And once the timer goes off, stop. Feel free to stop. You don't have to keep going. It doesn't matter if you're halfway through the area. If you're consistent, you're like, just put it down and walk away because you're going to do it again tomorrow. So it doesn't matter. Look for those easy wins. Sometimes it's hard. People get caught up in the hard, I don't know what to do with this. Okay, put that down and pick up something that you do know what to do with. Come back to that later. Maybe that thing needs to be addressed tomorrow or the next day, and the idea is going to come to you. Just do the easy stuff. Start with the easy stuff. As you build up over time with your 15 minutes, you're going to get better and better at it, and you're going to be able to address some of the harder things. I love starting with a trash bag because that's usually a very easy win. Anything that is broken or, just like has a hole, doesn't work anymore. And sometimes that's the hard thing, right? Like, I got this new coffee maker and then one of them works and one of them doesn't. I don't know which one, right? So then it's like, your 15 minutes is like which coffee maker works. To combat that, it's in the moment that's hard because you do have to like test them or whatever, or that's your homework maybe for the next 24 hours. But to combat that in the future is when the new upgraded item comes in, right away, if it's truly broken, decluttering it or moving it, labeling it clearly, like this is good. Once 30 days have gone by, I can get rid of it because we got the upgraded Keurig or whatever it is. I would encourage being ruthless, just, as ruthless as you can be, especially not with sentimental items. I encourage caution with sentimental items, ruthless with just in case items or items under the 2020 rule, which if you haven't watched that video, there's a whole video on it. But basically, we keep a lot of things that can be gotten within 20 minutes of our home for $20 or less. If you can replace an item that fast and that cheaply, and it's something you're not using, let it go. That's when we're just like living in warehouses. Let it go, because if you really need it, you can easily and cheaply go and get it again, and you usually would, right? Some organizers ask the question, would you even know you have it? Right? Which is a fair question, especially for some of these little odds and ends, specialty items. You would just go to the store and buy a new one or order it from Amazon or whatever you do. You don't need to store everything just in case. We're not living in a wilderness, right? So if you have time say you're working away 15 minutes on a drawer, decluttering, tidying it up, making it neat, and making it neat so that in a lasting way, right? Sorting by categories. And then you have a couple minutes left. Kind of do one or two things in the next space that you're going to address tomorrow. You don't have to do the whole space, but usually that's the hardest thing is to get started. It's taking that first step. And so if you can, tomorrow I'm going to do the next drawer and the next shelf over. Can you line those things up a little bit? Can you sort them a little bit? Put the like with like. Can you, put any little trash that you see in your trash bag? Any little first steps that you can take for the next space if you have time in your 15 minutes, that's just going to help you tomorrow. And your tomorrow self will thank you for it. I would encourage you to have a donation or to-go box or bag. And then at the end of the 15 minutes, or either like you're going to continue filling it tomorrow, and then when it's full, it goes in your car, or at the end of the 15 minutes, you're popping it in your car if you're done with it. So those are kind of, I could talk about this all day. That's why I have a YouTube channel. But those are some of the real tips that I think will help you as you're decluttering your home in 15 minutes a day. There are two pitfalls that I wanted to talk about, and I've sort of touched on them a little bit. One pitfall is don't get sucked in to sentimental items. So that can suck up your 15 minutes in a heartbeat. A good example is, photos or yearbooks. Wonderful. So the difference, like when you have a professional organizer or even a guest assistant or what have you, they're not going down memory lane. So like when I hit pictures, it's like, oh, I don't even ask people. I assume they're keeping pictures. I assume that. And so it's like, great, put it in the picture bin and move on. So I'm not like, oh, look at this time that we had the graduation party. Oh, look at this vacation we went. It was amazing. Like, don't get sucked into the sentimental items. It's just sort of like, yes, we are keeping those. If everything else is done and you're literally just sorting photos, you're going to have to look at them, right? But if you have a bunch of clutter in your home, a bunch of areas to address, I would have a sentimental tote or bin or area, and you're like, that's sentimental. That's sentimental. And you just continue to put those items there for later. So you're just doing a broad sort at the beginning. Don't get sucked into sentimental items. The other pitfall that I've seen, and I have a client recently who really does it a lot, but it's like the books when you give a mouse a cookie. And if you haven't seen those books, it's pretty famous and there's a bunch of them. You could get it from the library. I'm sure there's videos on YouTube of people reading this book. But basically, if you give a mouse a cookie, and I'm making this up, but it's the gist, they'll ask for a glass of milk. That's a real one. And then when you give them the glass of milk, they'll say, how is milk made? And then you'll take them to the farm and show them the cow. And then they'll say, how does the cow sleep at night? And then you take them to the barn and they're like, oh, this is wonderful. Who builds barns? And then you take them and show them a barn raising. And then they're like, wow, that's amazing. And how did you find this on a map? And then you're showing them a map and then they're drawing a map. And then they're like, who was the first map maker? And then you're at the map making history museum. So anyway, that's the idea of the book, but that happens in the home, right? So people will be like, oh, this thing, I know where it goes. And then they go over there to put it away, which is good. It's good to put it away. But then they start doing a couple things here. And then there's 5 minutes there. And then they're like, oh, I found this. And this actually belongs in the laundry room. Now they're in the laundry room and they're doing a couple things in the laundry room. And then they found, a glass and a plate. And they were like, oh, that goes to the kitchen. And then they're doing a couple things in the kitchen. And then your 15 minutes are up. So that's you want to really, if you're like, I'm going to do this drawer for 15 minutes, do the drawer for 15 minutes. Don't, if you have a couple things to put in homes, you could almost gather them. Like, here's the pile of things that I know have homes. And if you're like, I'm really containing the 15 minutes, maybe at 12 minutes, you walk around and just like, okay, that goes there, that goes there, that goes there, that goes there. You're kind of throwing them, where they belong. But don't get, if you just do a little minute here, minute there, the 15 minutes isn't going to build up and give you momentum the way you want it to. So that's the pitfall. That was a long explanation for the pitfall. I'd love to hear if you're decluttering your home in 15 minutes a day. How is it going? What's working well? We're cheering you on. Go for it.